Alabama had their second practice, the second scrimmage practice on Saturday in Tuscaloosa. We're going to talk about the results of that and one position, the cornerback spot, that Kalen DeBoer was pretty high on after that practice. One of the biggest questions that I think a lot of us have had about this team going into the first game of the season, which is now less than 2 weeks away. We're going to talk about it right here on the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Let's get this thing started. Roll Tide, everybody. Thanks for hanging out here, and let's talk some Alabama football. Everybody, Mick Gillespie right here on the channel at Broadcaster Mick, and I appreciate you hanging out. Our buddy Big Sexy Elmo is on assignment, so you just got me today as we talk about this scrimmage. So let's talk some Alabama football. Bama had their second scrimmage, and we're starting to get a lot of intel back from how that went, and it seems like it went really well. There wasn't significant injuries, so nobody got hurt, and the team took a step forward to get ready under Kalen DeBoer for their first season. And you talk about guys that are battling for a spot on the team, and I think it really starts with, to me, the weakest position, which we've covered a lot on this channel, and that's the cornerback spot. But Kalen DeBoer said, look, I thought that they were on top of the receivers all day. He said they knew their responsibilities. They were in the right position. He said that, that there were a couple of clips he couldn't find, but, for the most part, what he saw was, not many busted assignments, and that he says that they continue to get better each and every day, right? So you hear him say that, and I could even play the clip for you. The thing that I wonder is, how are things going to look? You got two corners, who's going to start? Well, Damani Jackson has solidified one of the cornerback spots. You remember he was the transfer out of USC last year. He almost came to Alabama and ended up going to USC. And then when Alabama was there in Pasadena, Southern Cal, for the Rose Bowl, he was being looked at by Alabama and Michigan, and he said he's coming to Alabama. And then when Alabama announced, and Nick Saban announced that he was leaving, he's like, look, man, I've been trying to get here. I'm here. So that's a good thing. And he's got one of the starting spots. So he comes in with size and quickness. He has some experience. And this is a position that Alabama has absolutely zero experience coming back from last year. And that's because, just the way that position group all transferred out, which is still puzzling to me. And it has the scent of maybe some coaches that were there that were going to other schools, and maybe they were trying to get some of the guys that were there to go with them. It just feels that way. Who knows? But the entire position was absolutely decimated. And we don't see that anywhere else on the roster except that particular spot, right? And it's not like they all went to the same school. They went to a bunch of different schools. So Alabama's trying to rebuild that spot. And you got Damani Jackson on one side. Now who's on the other side? And that's been a really interesting battle. Deshaun Jones is one of the best options that Alabama has. He's transferred from Wake Forest. He's got some experience, but he's also dealing with three guys who are all freshmen, true freshmen, that come in with a ton of experience. And the guy who has really turned heads in that spot is freshman Xavier Brown. And he's been dealing with a club on his hand, but it hasn't slowed him down. He is one of these, depending on publications, 4 or 5 star type guy. He's got a ton of talent, and he's come into this camp and he is turning heads. And it looks like he's going to be one of the guys that plays a lot, and if not, starts that position. And DeBoer talked about that, and he basically said that he's been, really taken by the fact that these guys play at a high level, and that he's seeing that. He said that of Deshaun Jones, that he's got more snaps under his belt, and a lot of things show up at times for him. It's a huge positive. And then he talks about, basically Brown having a great head on his shoulder. And, and playing at a high level of high school. And that translates, he feels like, to Alabama. So we'll see what happens with the club on on his hand, but I just don't feel like Xavier Brown's getting shook right now by Deshaun Jones. And this is one of, like I said, one of the big position battles going on. Now, everyone has talked about Jaleel Hurley, and you know that by now, I'm hoping you do, that I'm part of Cover Crimson. And one of the things I do is a show every day with Clint Lamb, who is a genius on all this stuff. And he feels like when it comes to Jaleel Hurley, that that he wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't transfer out. He was the only guy that came back on scholarship from last year in that spot, and he just really hasn't been able to turn heads in this practice. But it's been Jalen Mbakwe and Zay Mincy, two more 5-star corners who have created depth for Alabama and also are really, at times showing off their amazing talent and have a chance to eventually start. I mean, it just depends on, how injuries progress and all of that stuff. And you don't want anyone getting hurt, but these guys are going to be thrust into this opportunity. And maybe that's the same thing for Hurley, where, he gets put in this position and he's able to kind of go back out there and get it done. So it's interesting. This is a really important position. I feel like the safety spot has even though they lost Caleb Downs, with Malachi Moore going back there, I feel like that. And then the transfer of Saab from Michigan, who was going to be their starting safety if he hadn't left, him back there. King Max, another guy that's done a nice job. That group seems to be okay to me. It's this cornerback spot that leaves me kind of scratching my head a little bit and going, okay, what is Alabama going to need to do here to be able to, at least not go out there and get blown away in that position, and I feel like that to me is a really, really important part of this. Now, the other position that we'll talk about on the show is the battle for the right tackle. And this one's interesting too, because it's pretty even. And I think that both guys have done exactly what they've been asked to do, to go out there and contribute and play for Kalen DeBoer. And it's going to come down to, as DeBoer said, basically both guys have their strengths and things that they do well. He said, they're just figuring out which one's going to be our guy, and that they've both done a lot of reps. And it comes down to Elijah Pritchard and Wilkin Formby. So we'll see. But I think that as these guys go back and forth, Coach Cap is one of the most exciting new coaches that Alabama has. He just feels like someone that any of us would love to play football for. He comes in with all that energy and excitement. And, what does that mean for this football team? It means that this offensive line could be a real strength. And, one of the guys that we really worried about was Roberts, who said, well, maybe, he's going to be injured. No, Kalen DeBoer came out and said, hey, this guy's going to be fine. He'll start their opening game. Don't worry about him, right? We know Booker. We know that we got a center this year, one of the best centers in the country, in Brailsford. And then the left tackle spot is it's going to be, leave town and come back and kind of, basically Caden Proctor in that, that other slot. So this right tackle position, one of the most important ones on the football team, and in one of the real intriguing battles that is taking place right now in camp. So cornerback and right tackle, but another great scrimmage. Alabama building some depth at the backup quarterback role, which we knew they would. I think offensive line is going to be the biggest strength. Cornerback probably the biggest weakness, just because there's not a whole lot of depth and they don't have a lot of scholarship guys. But we're in a good place as we get ready to have another week of practice and build towards that game against Western Kentucky and start to get into this season, the first one for Kalen DeBoer. So that's where we are right now. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys, on the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. Again, we're brought to you by our friends at Pearl River Resort over in Philadelphia, Mississippi. And the thing I want to tell you is that I'm going to be there Wednesday and Thursday, and then we're going to have Steve Azar, great country singer, is going to be there. and he's going to be promoting his brand new Bloody Mary mix. If you're in the area, swing by. If you want details, basically be there Wednesday night and Thursday morning. We're going to hang out at Dancing Rabbit Golf Course and at the casino at the Sportsbook. You can do the same thing. And look, Sportsbook works like this. Go in there, just like Vegas. You can bet on games, futures, all the stuff that's going on right now. College football games, Major League Baseball, anything that's out there, they got it. And if you bet $50 and you play golf, you can go out and play the Dancing Rabbit Golf Course, which is known as the Augusta. You can play for just $40. You don't even have to have a membership. Great fee, great place to go play golf. It just has that good feel to it. Water Park, Geyser Falls is fantastic. Silver Star, Golden Moon Casino, and then some great music acts celebrating 30 years, which is crazy as well. So we'll expect to see maybe Big Sexy Elmo back with us again tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. And again, we get closer and closer to kickoff. Roll Tide.
To Pearl River Resort.